and welcome to Redheads on Romance, the podcast where Lily, that's me, and Holly,
that's me,
review romance novels and Hallmark movies for our own entertainment and hopefully yours too. So join us for a slightly snarky look at the spicy and sentimental side of Happily Ever After. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. We are back today with an exciting new review of a Hallmark movie that's literally hot off the presses. It's called Return to Office, and I had some big hopes for this one because it kind of covered a lot of my favorite tropes. It's an office romance, and the main characters communicate by anonymous love notes, and in the ads, it kind of looked like it might be an enemies to lovers. So I was like, what's not to like about this movie? Well, it turns out there's a lot. It's a ride, and we'll get to that in a second. I just want to kind of introduce the main characters are played by Janelle Parrish, who plays Viv, and Scott Michael Foster. He plays Tom, and if you don't know him, he is in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, which is like an amazing show by Rachel Bloom. If you haven't seen it, you need to see it. Wouldn't you agree, Holly?
Yes. In fact, I was a huge fan that had watched the show 2 or 3 times through. And then when you told me you were watching it, I was very excited. So,
yes, no, it's great. It's musical comedy and just wonderful. So that's a sidetrack. But now let's get down to Return to Office. So I guess I could set the scene. The main character, Liv? Maybe it's Liv. Her name is Liv. I have it written down here. So she wakes up to classical music from her Echo type device. You find out that she doesn't do sounds or smells, and she wakes up and she makes matcha green tea, and she looks all perfect when she wakes up, and she cuts fruit for breakfast, and she's starting to get ready for work. So, Holly, why don't you take us from there for a little bit?
So, yeah, she gets her perfect outfit on. She's very black and white, and everything is just like perfectly folded and neat, and her house is immaculate, and she's got this giant ring light, and we see her from the waist down. She's wearing PJ pants and slippers. So we realize, okay, so her office is home. She turns on a video call, has the typical Zoom call experience. She's kicking butt. She is in charge. She looks professional. And then the, boss man drops the bomb on them. What does he say during the meeting that everyone dreads to hear?
Yes, the boss, who I think we decided when we watched this, it's the fake Peter Gallagher that we saw in the Happy Holidays movie. So I just want to point that out. But he drops the bomb that everyone is going to return to office, basically on his whim. And nobody's happy about that. But he says it's going to be this weird arrangement where some people are going to come Mondays and Wednesdays. Other people are going to come Tuesdays and Thursdays. And then I think Friday, everyone can work from home. I forget. That's not as important. But it was important to the plot that they're kind of offset days. And during this video call, you also meet Tom, who's like this artist guy. And he's like super late to the call. And you can kind of see there's a little tension between Liv and Tom, and you're like, ooh, tension. Okay.
And it's important to note that there aren't enough desks. She immediately is scrambling for any reason why they can't return to the office. But we don't have nearly enough workstations for all these people. She's thinking like, oh, well, we'll all get out of this. And he goes, oh, well, that's why everyone's going to share desks. So that's the whole Monday, Wednesday is the same desk as the Tuesday, Thursday person. So you're going to be sharing workstations. And then, yes, our Scott Michael Foster guy. So his thing is he's kind of a mess. He's late to the meeting. He's just kind of a messy artist, but he's kind of this outgoing guy and, seems like a lot of fun, and she just seems real uptight.
Yeah, so immediately you think, oh, these two wacky characters won't get along. This movie is very predictable, and we're going to get to that. And I say that knowing that almost every Hallmark movie is predictable. This is a different kind of predictable that's the very bad kind. and we'll get to that. But all right, so I think you find out that our main character Liv is up for a VP promotion, and because of that, she's very kind of like a yes man to her boss a lot. She has her big strong ideas, but he kind of like talks down to her. I think on the video call, even you see it, that he's very much, she'll say something and he's like, could you silence your microphone and so you don't talk over me? And then later he's like, we can't hear you. You should speak up now. So he's really kind of like not very great to her. Okay, so you find out that the reason Tom is involved in any of this is she works for a company that just acquired Tom's company, Artist Axis, which I guess is some sort of social media platform that's been growing that sets up artists with, I think, people who want to commission work, something like that. And he's like the head designer. Liv's boss, what is his? I don't even know his name. He mentions the word empire like 1,000 times. Like, we're going to grow our empire with acquiring this business and this empire. So, okay. Anyway, they have this return to office policy. She shows up on Monday and she struggles to find a desk. So she ends up with a kind of a crappy desk right next to the kitchen that I guess they have there that has a blender, and she hates noises, and this is a big problem. And while she's working there, she decides to put a succulent on the table, and you find out they have these rules that everyone's supposed to put their stuff away in a drawer at the end of the day because the next people are going to come. And so she decides to leave a Post-it to her desk mate asking if it's okay that she leaves out the succulent.
So she signs her note, something like "Sincerely, Ms. Monday." And so he comes in the next day, sees her little note, kind of smiles and says, "Oh, no problem. I'm going to spruce up the place with some stuff too," and puts a rubber ducky and hangs up all these, I thought they were nice, like drawings all over the wall, and writes this note and signs it Mr. Tuesday. And then she comes in on Wednesday and is just like horrified by the duck and the pictures and shoves everything in the drawer and writes him a note, and things get a little tense kind of at that point.
Oh yeah. So he actually left a mess. He threw crumpled up papers at the trash can, but like half of them didn't land in there. So like really crazy stuff that you're sharing a space. What I thought was funny is when she writes him a note, basically like, you know what, I changed my mind. Let's just follow the rules. And she takes all of his stuff down, but then she leaves out her succulent, which I'm like, excuse me, if you're changing the rules, that needs to go away too. But yes, they kind of start this, what you think is kind of a little clashing. So you're like, ooh, it's going to be enemies to lovers. But that doesn't quite happen.
Yeah, so they do their daily Post-it to each other. And quickly, he has a pan au chocolat, which, if you don't know, is a chocolate croissant, delivered to her right as she walks in. Someone delivers the box from the best bakery in town and writes this really nice note, like, hopefully this will smooth things over. And she takes one bite and is just transported, even though no one this skinny would ever be eating like a 10,000 calorie box of croissants. But so she loves it. She's suddenly like, oh, he's great, and writes him a really nice note that day. Like, why don't you go ahead and leave your stuff out? Was this after the ham sandwich? Yeah. So like over the weekend, he had left a ham sandwich in the drawer or like the trash because he forgot about it. And so, yeah, she was initially quite upset about the stinky sandwich on Monday.
Yeah, I have words for this. So this man is supposed to be like an artist, and he's kind of aloof. He's late to everything, and he's just a mess. He's a messy person. He's, clearly not having any thought about the other people sharing a space. And I'm like, okay, this might be cute on like a 20-something-year-old, but this man is like 40. We looked it up. Like, he's like 40 years old. This isn't cute at 40. Like, get it together. But okay, so, and the thing I didn't like about this is they literally fought for like 2 seconds, and then she's like, okay, I forgive you. And I'm like, well, there goes the enemies to lovers. This is like too fast. I don't like it. They're way too nice. You learn that one of the things he has hung up is a color Yinmin blue, which he says is like the first color they've made a pigment for since I think cobalt blue. And that's used in the story somewhere. But anyway, she starts leaving Post-its and leaving like winky faces. So it's really starting to escalate very quickly.
So they find out that there's an all hands meeting in the office where everyone has to be there. So they're like, should we introduce each other there? No, let's just keep it a mystery. So anyway, the characters immediately, of course, see each other at the meeting and start chatting. I guess it's supposed to be flirty, but they're chatting away. They don't know it's Miss Monday and Mr. Tuesday, but they're kind of acting flirty, and she's giving him the eyes and the whole thing.
Okay, so at this meeting, after she was giving the hungry eyes to our character Tom a little bit, she says she's giving a presentation, and she goes up there and she says, without talking to Tom, who is the head designer of this company and started it up and it got taken over, she says, we need to rebrand Artist Axis. We need a new logo. And her boss, the fake Peter Gallagher, is like, perfect idea. And Tom's like, what? So again, it looks like they're trying to create this like enemies to lovers kind of thing. But in 2 seconds, they have a meeting over coffee, but where she gets them both matchas without even asking him, which I thought was rude too. And they have a quick talk, and he's like, yeah, okay. Then you find out there's going to be some sort of team building event. We'll get to that in a little bit. But then you get to the side plot of Tom's mom is moving to a retirement village kind of place called Xanadu.
And you may remember the Olivia Newton-John roller skating song, Xanadu, which is what I immediately think of. So he's at Xanadu. He's sketching a picture of his mom, but it just looks like a computer-generated photo kind of look. And it was very confusing. But he's an artist, so I guess it doesn't really matter what it looks like. He's just being an artist boy. So he's talking to his mom about the girl at the desk. So this is kind of, mom's getting involved a little bit, which will become important later. And then she gets a gift from him the next day that she comes in, and it's noise canceling headphones, which is amazingly sweet. She puts them on immediately. The annoying blender, which again, I don't understand why there's this open concept kitchen in the middle of the office covered in vegetables everywhere on every surface. And the boss guy just makes vegetable smoothies, and his food ninja is like so loud, and yeah, none of that makes any sense. But in real life, but of course they're just trying to make it annoying for her. So she puts on her new headphones, and it's wonderful.
Okay, so now they need a way for them to communicate almost constantly. I don't know why they don't exchange phone numbers, but there's like a work app that they can message through. So they decide to switch to that. So now they're basically text messaging all the time, which also kind of takes a little bit of the mystery out for me. I don't know why, but everything seems so fast in this movie. She meets with him. She buys him a pastry, I think from the same place in person. And they start having a meeting about the logo change and how it needs to appeal worldwide and the current logo doesn't. And then you cut to Liv at Xanadu, and it turns out that she's a volunteer there. She helps teach a quilting class, so I guess she's a quilter. And Tom's mom thinks she's just lovely, and she wants to set her up with her son, and you find out she doesn't do setups. She's like, if I accept it from one mom, I have to do it for all of them.
In a way, I'm like, girl, just go for it. Like, you're single. Why would you not just like go on these blind dates? But then I'm like, but I've also been on a blind date, and it was so horrible, and I couldn't believe the person set me up. So maybe she's had this trauma in her past as well. But, she doesn't know what she's actually missing out on, which is this guy, which, as it turns out, she already knows. So then they have a team building game called the Omega Games at the office. And of course, Liv and Tom are paired up. It's very awkward. He's blindfolded. She has to tell him what to do, and he's hula hooping and jumping through this like rope thing and all this stuff. And did they win?
They did.
Yeah. So they win and they hug and it's awkward. But we're a great team.
Okay. So they won and they got baskets and they're like, oh, let's look through our baskets. And you find they get, I think, reservations at this restaurant called Enclave. They each get this in their own basket. And then they also won private cooking lessons with a fancy chef. And all this can be scheduled, when they're ready to. So then he kind of asked her, do you have someone in mind you're planning to take? And she's like, yeah, I do. And then he's like, me too. And then that's the end of that. He does kind of ask if she's seeing anyone, and yeah, just someone in mind. So then Liv meets with her friend who's super nosy and's like, hey, you seem really happy. And then they start talking about this desk guy and that she hasn't met him yet. And then we get back to these fake drawings. Single person home. Okay. Holly touched on this, but it just annoyed the crap out of me this entire time. Every time they showed him drawing, it was 100% a real photo that was edited in Photoshop or something to make it look like a drawing. And it looks so fake and so bad. And I'm like, can they not hire somebody who can draw in real life to do this for the show? I don't understand. How much could that cost? Even if it was $1,000, it would be worth it. There's so many of these dumb drawings in this movie, and I get outraged every time I see them. Okay, that's the end of that rant. So he's talking to his mom and I guess her friend that he wants to meet this girl, but he wants it to be special and creative. Seriously, no. Okay, so I think Holly was so invested in this movie that she fell asleep with her eyes. So I'm going to talk a little more, but I'll get her back in when she's ready. Yeah, he's talking to his mom or something, and he's saying he wants to meet her, but he wants it to be special and creative. This Miss Tuesday girl. Eventually, he starts working on this logo design. It's a really big deal, and he's messaging with Liv, or I guess Miss Monday, and she's like, I always listen to Baroque music and put on candlelight and do yoga, and that helps me. And he does that, and he creates this logo, and it's amazing. And he's basically like, you're too incredible. I have to meet you. So they plan to have a dinner for two.
So she's back at Xanadu and she is talking to the mom, and somehow it slips like, oh yeah, my son works in tech and da 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 da, and he's also this, and she's like, well, what's his name? And she's like, Tom. So that's when Liv finds out that the whole thing, like Mr. Tuesday, or because she said, oh yeah, my son has a person at work he calls Miss Monday that he's interested in. She's like, well, what's his name? And so the mom says Tom. So that's when she finds out like who it is. So she goes to Enclave to meet him, knowing it's who it is, and he is like, oh, what are you doing here? Like, oh, come on. Like, he knows that Miss Monday is going to be showing up, and then he sees her and he's like, why are you here? And she's like, oh, I just
she has a date.
Yeah, like have a date. And so for whatever reason, she doesn't want him to know at this point. So I don't really know why she like doesn't mention it at that point.
Okay, this part really made me upset because I feel like there are a lot of unspoken rules about romance novels and books about like the way your characters are supposed to interact and act and behave so that you don't hate them or think they are terrible people or whatever. And in this situation, she flat out lies. She doesn't just like kind of walk around the truth by answering in ways that could be conceived as possibly truthful. She's like, oh, actually, my date's in like a half an hour. I'm here early. And then she goes into the bathroom and texts him from Miss Monday saying she's not going to show up. That rage. That is not how this is supposed to work, because now you're just flat out lying. You're making him disappointed because his date's not going to show up. So she tries to talk to him, since they're both kind of there. And then he kind of goes off on her, I think, because he's a bit wounded about Miss Monday. He kind of talks about how she didn't have his back in an earlier meeting with her boss when he didn't like the new logo. So then she's all sad and doesn't tell him the truth. And he's like, I'm just going to go home early, or go home now. And so that was that, because she ruined it, because she did everything wrong. Okay. So after this date that was terrible, Liv goes back to the nursing home for some reason and basically is like, I forgot some stuff. So of course the meddling mom and her friend show up and are like, hey, what are you doing here? Like, why, if the date went well, you'd not be here right now. What are you doing? And so she's like, I think I messed it up. Like, and he hates me. He kind of just told me off about a bunch of stuff. And, she's basically like, how do I salvage this? Then Tom shows up, I think, at the nursing home another day in those dumb drawings. And the mom's basically like, you're putting too many eggs in this Miss Monday basket. Maybe you should think about that other woman you work with, Liv. And is really bad acting, and he considers it, and then he does invite her for the cooking class. So do you remember the cooking class? Are you awake for this part?
I don't think so.
Okay. Oh my gosh, this is becoming the Lily podcast right now. Okay, so yeah, they were at the cooking class. He invited her to the cooking class that he won as Liv, and the HR guy was invited too, which was really awkward. And with the mustache, and it's kind of like cutesy and weird. And then the HR guy comes over. If you guys are dating, you need to disclose it, because they looked awfully datey. Yes. But she got a list of snacks and drinks and beverages that Tom likes from Tom's mom to kind of like, I don't know what her end game is, because she's not telling him the truth, but she's like trying to win him over. I don't know what's going on here. And then at some point she says something to him that I'm like, what the hell? She basically is like, you're such a good artist. You should consider being a carnival sketch artist. And I'm just like, this man is a professional artist for a living. Like, I don't think you'd want to be like, go to a carnival and do that, like caricatures or something. Like, I don't know. I thought that was weird. Then he has this cute moment where he touches her hair and he moves it behind her ear and they're getting close. And he says she has a lot in common with Miss Monday, dummy. And he's like, maybe I have a type. Okay. Then nothing happens there. And then you go back to work with Walter's logo.
So they're in the meeting. Walter, the boss, is unveiling the logo that he came up with, even though they have designers and he doesn't apparently know anything about design. And it's horrible. It's the worst thing Tom has ever seen. He says it looks like they just put all the keywords, corporate buzzwords, into an AI generator, and this is the logo it produced. It's basically like big orange bubble letters that say AX with artist access underneath, and it's like super ugly. And just on another like random rant, you always want a designer to design logos. I've been through this several times, and you have them just come up with like 5 options and you pick the one you like. It's not that hard. I don't know why this guy decided to just use ChatGPT or whatever is the art equivalent of it. To just bypass an entire design team that he is paying money to, I guess, do nothing, because he just wants to use AI and he thinks it's great because he did it himself, but everyone else hates it. So
so Tom gets angry and Tom's like, I quit. And Liv's like, no, wait, don't. And she tries to follow him, and her boss Walter's basically like, if you walk out there, you're cleaning out your desk too. And she's like, she waits for a second, but then he goes on this sidebar that he's like, by the way, we're changing artist access anyway. We're going to steal the the frame, like the setup of it, to make this other thing that's the future of art and design that is AI. They're literally going to like gut Artist Access and move to a complete AI system. But he's like, so if you're on board, you're going to be that VP for this. But he turns and looks and she's gone. And she left the Post-it. She quits. So anyway, Tom talks to his mom and he is upset that Liv didn't have his back because he doesn't know she quit. He stormed off before that. And the mom uses this metaphor that I hate about a quilt, that she's like, if you look at a quilt, you see all these beautiful things, but it's artistic and whatever, but it's the frame of the quilt holds it all together. It has to be rigid. It has to follow the rules. And I'm like, this is the worst metaphor I've ever seen. But anyway, she somehow gets him to like come around to Liv. Liv is trying to get a hold of him and she can't. He won't talk to her. And he's been leaving Miss Monday alone to give her space for some reason. I don't even remember why. It made no sense. But she decides that the only way to get through to Tom is to contact him as Miss Monday.
Oh, okay. So they arrange to meet. They're going to go to some restaurant. He goes there and there's notes that he's following, the little Post-its like The Office. There's one on the waiter's back as he walks away. And he finally finds her. Well, she's got her hair up, so from behind, you can't really tell it's her. And then she turns around and he's like, still all clue, like, what are you doing here? And she, oh, it's me. Like, so finally it clicks, finally, that this is her. And he says he's relieved that it's her because, of course. So he was torn between two amazing women and now he doesn't have to choose. I'm so glad it's you standing here. And it's a very long speech. He just keeps talking and talking and talking and it's just not realistic, which we all know that's how these movies are. But I guess, that's pretty much the end. They have their kiss. And it was kind of a letdown.
Okay, I hate this. I hate this so much because at the end of the movie, this is supposed to be this long-standing secret, this Miss Monday that he was really into. And you'd think there'd be some kind of reaction when he finds out it's her. You lied to me. Why did you cancel our date? Why didn't you tell me? All these things. And he's just like, I'm so glad it's you. And then goes in this long monologue about, she's amazing and he didn't have to choose. And it's so glad it's you standing there. And, she apologizes about the Walter thing. And he's like, it's okay. I understand. And she tells him she's quit too. And they kiss and they're like, well, what do we do next? And then they decide to start their own business together. But this kiss was so disappointing. I'm sorry, but these characters, both beautiful people, had zero chemistry together. Like zero chemistry. That it was terrible.
And we know that it's very possible for this actor to have great chemistry because with Rebecca Bunch / Rachel Bloom in Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, they were like, I thought, mad chemistry. Like he's the mean kind of like boss CEO that takes over the company and he's like mean and she's all very like fancy free and weird and crazy. And so they have like a big, clash and they're very like, oh, I hate you. And then they like make out in an elevator and it's like really, I thought great chemistry, just amazing, so cute. I liked, when she moved on from a different love interest in a previous season, you think usually it just like goes downhill, but they really like freshened it up by bringing him in and it was fantastic. So it's not him. I don't know if it's her. I guess she was in them together. Was she Pretty Little Liars or was it something else? That was kind of like her big role from the past. And I haven't seen that, so I don't know. But yeah, the two of them together were like a wet blanket on top of a wet blanket, just being wet blankets. I just, whoa, it was terrible chemistry, like the worst ever. I mean, the acting, I think, for a Hallmark movie was about like on the right par, but
for those two, not for some of the side characters.
Yes, but usually, we might have more to complain about with, the acting was bad. This was just pure like terrible chemistry. I don't know. And again, like I know this guy like has it in him, so maybe they cast the girl wrong. I don't know, but we were very sad. So
I was very sad. This movie, I had such high hopes, and then they were all dashed. All dashed. Okay, so, well then, what would your rating be for this movie, Holly?
Oh boy. And it's so sad because I'm with you. Like, we love the hating game. This had like all the ingredients like thrown into an AI generator and whizzed up and spit this out. And it was just a mess. 2 out of 5 stars, 1.5. I don't know, somewhere in that.
Ooh, maybe because I built myself up so much about it. Like, maybe that's why it felt so bad. But yeah, I want to say like 2 stars. I feel like a 1 star I've got to reserve for something like just atrocious through and through. But this was like a 2 star. How about the spicy index?
In the basement, -5 out of 5. There was no chemistry, no zing. There was just nothing. That one like closed mouth, like hold your mouths together, hold your mouths together, hold your mouths together, kiss at the end. Oh, gross.
I have to agree. It was it was not. No, I mean, I like happily ever after cutesy romancy things, and even I was groaning throughout this movie. Holly was like dying in a corner, but I was just like, So, no, this not a good one. All right.
And I'm sad because I have high hopes for the Hallmark off season because their Christmas is such a bustling time of movies. And, Lily's paying for Hallmark Plus every month to be able to watch these movies. We want them to be good. So, yes, I did have hope springing eternally within me that this would be somewhat watchable. But either we'll get rewarded with more pain next time, or maybe pleasantly surprised. Let's hope.
Well, thank you for joining us on this wild ride, and we hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time for the next one. Thank you so much.
And if anyone wants to recommend a book or a movie for us, as long as it's romance related, we would love to take any suggestions. We are at Redheads on Romance on Instagram, so send us a message. Thank you.